I'd like to demonstrate once again why you need to straighten these aluminum cylinder heads off of your vintage Mercedes before you start doing any machine work, in particular milling the cylinder head. I've measured, used my micrometer, and I have measured the thickness of the cylinder head. Originally it was 3 inches 346, and this one is, right now it's 3 inches 330 at that point, 3 inches 335 here, so that means it's wedge shaped 5/1000 from left to right. And we got 3 inches 341, 3 inches 345, so this thickness right here is very close to original thickness. And then down here, 3 inches 325, 3 inches 327. So again, it's slightly wedge shaped all along the length. But the worst part is, of course, the difference in the thickness from front to rear. We have thin here, thick here, thin here. And the reason for that is when these cylinder heads warp, which they all will do, they warp so that the head surface is bowed. All right, it's going to bow. My hands don't go the right way. It's going to bow like this. So what we're looking at is this surface here, and it is bowed up like this, so that when you pull it off the head, when it warps on the engine and you pull the head off, it's going to be warped. And this is one of the reasons you'll see a lot of corrosion in the center right here. You notice you have corrosion in these combustion chambers because it lifts in the center and allows water to leak in from the cooling passages, which you can see right here. If you notice, we've got a very nice, well-defined fire ring right around here, but you see how it becomes very dark? Everything is dark over here. That means you had water flowing in to the combustion chamber, and when you pull the cylinder head off, you can read the head gasket, and you can see with head gasket it was making full contact, in addition to reading the top of the block and the cylinder head, like right here. And let me see, let me switch to macro, get you a little better shot of that. Alright, so you see how we got a real nice, well-defined fire ring, which is what keeps the combustion pressures in the combustion area and out of the rest of the engine. And we come over here, and all of a sudden it's dull dark, and you cannot see any difference between the two areas. And so that means we had leakage. This head gasket was leaking, and that's due to the cylinder head warping and pulling in the center. To prevent that, of course, go in and retorque your cylinder head periodically. And of course at the ends you can see how nice and clean it is for the most part, especially here. Didn't warp here. Anyway, now we're going to show you the actual warpage. And how we do that is we use a precision straight edge. This is actually made by Starrett. I believe it's a Starrett. And yeah, it's a Starrett out of Athol, Massachusetts. If you can read that or not, right there. Anyway, it's a well-used piece of equipment, and the way we can check that is with a straight edge. And what we're going to do is lower the camera, and you can see, and get lower than that. Anyway, let's try this. And what you use is a feeler gauge to slip underneath here to show you how much warpage there is. But the easiest way to do that, of course, is with the light. And Nope. Let's see, I thought it was going to be easy. Let's lower the camera a little bit more. Yeah, this is not a Hollywood production, so sorry for the non-professional activities, but this is important. And like that. And put our straight edge on here. Alright, get this camera up here. Macro. Camera up there. Alright, now you can see the light coming through. That's not supposed to happen. And just right in that center section as I move back and forth. So what we do to measure the warpage, your feeler gauges and get some. Let's start at 10,000s. See what we got. 10,000 doesn't go here. Let's try over here. 10,000 goes. Alright, so if 10 goes, let's try 11. 11 goes. 12 is tight. 13 is not going to go. So we got 12 thousandths warpage in the center. And that's just on this surface. So what we're going to do is flip it over and see what kind of warpage we have on the top surface, where the camshaft has got to run straight and true, and where the valve cover is going to run. So let's put the straight edge down here, get the camera in position, and just letting the straight edge sit on there. Let's take a look, see what we can see in the way of light coming through. Move the camera down here. Take a look. Alright, you can see lots of light down here coming through. So we take our feeler gauges, and I already know this one's a pretty good gap back here, about 40,000. So I got here's my 20 and 21. Yeah, 41 thousandths goes just fine. Here's 43. Alright. Here's 45. 45 just starting to drag, so we got at least 45 thousandths warpage that drops off on the rear, because the front here is not too bad. Let's see what we got here just in case. There's 7 there. Try 10. 10 goes. Let's try 16. 16 goes. This is warped more than I thought. 21 does not go, so let's try 20. It's sitting on the straight edge is pivoting on the center here. And so let's try 18 thousandths go. So we got about 18 warpage right here. So we'll mark that. Okay. Now then, what we're going to do is strap this thing down to this giant milled flat piece of steel and straighten this cylinder head and try to recover it as best we can. We got plenty of thickness here in terms of material, but what we need is to straighten the head, because if we keep milling it crooked like this, we got way too much difference between, you got 20 some, you know, like 18, almost 20 thousandths difference right here between the thick and the thin. And if we keep milling it, then what happens is, what you do is you come along here and you mill here until it matches this thickness, and then you mill here, and what you end up with is even accentuating the bow more, and you have a head that's wedge shaped. And so we're not running a Hemi wedge engine here. We just want a straight, flat, 6-cylinder head. So you need to straighten the head beforehand to pull all the warpage out, because another problem is if you keep milling here, there's nothing being done to the top surface, and so you end up we still have a top surface here where when you bolt the camshaft down, the camshaft is probably going to bind up because it's just way too this top surface is just way too warped. And we're going to take care of that with shims underneath the cam towers. And of course, if you have too much warpage, your valve cover gasket is not going to seal. You're going to end up with leaks, especially like at the back end in here. Your valve cover is going to seal here, and it's going to not seal back here, and it's going to leak like a son of a gun. Or you end up trying to pull the valve cover down so tight that you end up distorting the valve cover and or running the bolts that hold the valve cover into position into the top of the camshaft. So again, you have to straighten these cylinder heads before milling on them.